What's going on, everybody, and welcome back once again to Luke Zach Football. And before we get into today's video, make sure to subscribe and sack that like button. In today's video, I'm going to be doing my second round mock draft. I did the first round yesterday. Go and check that out if you missed it. But now I'm going to be continuing with the second round. So let's begin. With the 33rd pick of the draft, I have the Jaguars selecting Christian Watson, wide receiver from North Dakota State. Christian Watson's been a very controversial player the last couple of weeks. He's built up a lot of hype as of late. Before he was kind of looked at as a late second round kind of prospect, but now some people even have him as a late first round kind of prospect. I think he goes early second round. Whether the hype is deserved or not, I mean, you can't argue with his just physical traits. 6'5", 208 pounds, and ran a 4.44 40-yard dash. He is very physical and he can go up there and go get that ball. And to add to it, he has some speed to him. With the 34th pick of the draft, I have the Detroit Lions selecting Devontae Wyatt, a defensive tackle from the Bulldogs. The Lions need some help on that front seven, and Devontae Wyatt can do just that. With the 35th pick of the draft, I have the New York Jets selecting Breece Hall, a running back from Iowa State. This is the first running back off the board I have projected. Not too many, top tier running backs in this draft, just a couple, and not really first round caliber. Running backs are being less and less valued in today's NFL because of the passing heavy league, but Breece Hall could help the Jets, get some more wins on the board. And the Jets lack a good running game, and a young running back like Breece Hall can help take off some of the pressure from the passing game. With the 36th pick of the draft, I have the New York Giants selecting Lewis Klein, a safety from the Bulldogs. The Giants need some help in their secondary. They've lost Logan Ryan. Now, Logan Ryan plays a different position from Lewis Cine, but they're still in the defensive back category. With the 37th pick of the draft, I have the Houston Texans selecting Jahan Dotson, a wide receiver out of Penn State. Jahan Dotson has a cool backstory. Wanted to go play in USC, stayed in Penn State, his hometown, to stay with his family. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up, but I think he may be headed to the Texans if the board falls like this. With the 38th pick of the draft, I have the New York Jets picking Jaquan Brisker, a safety from Penn State. I think the Jets' main goal this draft is going to be to build up that defense with Robert Saleh as the head coach, who is a big defensive-minded guy. With the 39th pick of the draft, I have the Chicago Bears selecting Kenneth Walker III, running back from Michigan State. The Bears need some running back help. Also, they have Ty Montgomery, but he's not an every down back, and they let go of Tariq Cohen. Kenneth Walker can be a good complement to Justin Fields. With the 40th pick of the draft, I have the Seattle Seahawks selecting Boye Mafe, an edge from Minnesota. Seahawks definitely could use some front seven help. They've lost Bobby Wagner. They lost Carlos Dunlap. They really have nothing in that front seven as of now, and Boye Mafe could be the first step of rebuilding that. With the 41st pick of the draft, the Seattle Seahawks are back on the clock, and I have them picking Sam Howell, quarterback from North Carolina. Obviously, they could pick either one, Sam Howell or Boye Mafe, whichever order. Sam Howell, one of the least exciting quarterbacks of the top, projected quarterbacks, guys who can go in the first or second round. Sam Howell lacks mobility, lacks some arm strength. He is very accurate though, and however, even though he's not really mobile, he is good at throwing on the run, and that's something that Pete Carroll likes in his quarterbacks. With the 42nd pick of the draft, I have the Indianapolis Colts selecting George Pickens, wide receiver from the Bulldogs. George Pickens, I think, is a very underrated prospect, and his intangibles are very impressive, and the Colts are a wide receiver needy team. With the 43rd pick of the draft, I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Tyler Smith, the offensive tackle from Tulsa. If the Falcons draft Malik Willis, they're going to need to get him some protection, and this will be the best player available at that point. The 44th pick of the draft, I have the Cleveland Browns selecting Kenyon Green, offensive guard from Texas A&M. The Browns just traded for Deshaun Watson. They're going to do everything to be able to protect him because what ran Deshaun Watson out of Houston is not being protected. With the 45th pick of the draft, I have the Baltimore Ravens selecting David Ojabo, edge from the Michigan Wolverines. I think this pick makes a lot of sense. David Ojabo would have gone in the first round, maybe even mid-first round, if not for his torn ACL. David Ojabo probably will not play at all this season, but David Ojabo, I think, may be the best pure pass rusher in this entire draft, even better than Aiden Hutchinson. Aiden Hutchinson's a better overall player because he can stop the run, he can tackle better in the open field, but when it comes to simply just pass rushing, I think David Ojabo is the best in this draft, but he will fall a lot because he's not going to be playing this year. But I think it would make a lot of sense for the Ravens to get him because, as in right now, the Ravens' D-line is good, but they're very old. Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, Justin Houston, those guys are old, and this may be some of their last seasons possibly before they leave the Ravens, so David Ojabo can be a good succession plan. They don't really need him to play right now, and the Ravens are a defensive first kind of team. With the 46th pick of the draft, I have the Minnesota Vikings selecting Tyler Lindenbaum, center from Iowa. Now, the Vikings need some offensive line help, but that's mainly more the guard position. They could try to convince Linderbaum to move to guard, but worst case scenario, if he's still there, take him because he can be your center, your long-term center. With the 47th pick of the draft, I have the Washington Commanders selecting Quay Walker, linebacker from the Bulldogs. The Commanders' defense has a lot of great players. They haven't been able to bring it together. But they do lack some linebacker depth, and Quay Walker can help them out there. With the 48th pick of the draft, I have the Chicago Bears selecting Kyler Gordon, a cornerback from Washington. The Bears need some cornerback help, and Kyler Gordon would be a steal if he's still there at 48. With the 49th pick of the draft, I have the New Orleans Saints selecting Jalen Pitcher, safety from Baylor. The Saints need some safety help. Malcolm Jenkins retired. They let Marcus Williams go in free agency, so they need to replace that. With the 50th pick of the draft, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Drake Jackson, an edge from the Trojans. I think even though I had the Chiefs selecting a edge rusher in the first round, I have them doing it again here in the second round because they need depth at that position, and I think ultimately they need somebody to replace Frank Clark on the opposite side. With the 51st pick of the draft, I have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting Chad Muma, a linebacker from Wyoming. The Eagles need some help on that front seven, and Chad Muma will be staring at them in the face at 51. With the 52nd pick of the draft, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting Travis Jones, D-tackle for the Roll Tide. I think they need a good complementary guy on that D-line next to TJ Watt because Cam Hayward is only getting older. With the 53rd pick of the draft, I have the Green Bay Packers selecting Christian Harris, linebacker, another player from the Roll Tide. The Packers tried to address their linebacker needs by signing Whitney Mercilus last offseason. Whitney Mercilus has retired. The Packers need some linebacker help. With the 54th pick of the draft, I have the New England Patriots selecting Alec Pierce, wide receiver from the Bearcats. Alec Pierce, big go up there and go get it kind of receiver, very physical player. The Patriots need another good receiver. They have Nelson Aguilar, but obviously he's not going to cut it. You need another guy, and I think Alec Pierce can be just that for them and a good long-term weapon for Mac Jones. With the 55th pick of the draft, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting DeMarvin Leal, D-tackle from Texas A&M. With the departure of Chandler Jones, the Cardinals' D-line took a big hit, and J.J. Watt getting double-teamed will not work out well, so adding a young prospect like this next to him can take off some of the pressure from J.J. Watt and ultimately generate more pressure. With the 56th pick of the draft, I have the Dallas Cowboys selecting Sean Ryan, offensive guard from UCLA. The Cowboys need another guard. They lost Lael Collins and free agent, or they didn't actually lose him, they released him. With the 57th pick of the draft, I have the Buffalo Bills selecting Isaiah Spiller, running back from Texas A&M. No, Isaiah Spiller is not related to C.J. Spiller, but funny enough, C.J. Spiller played for the Bills and was great for the Bills, and now I have them selecting another Spiller. This obviously makes sense because the Bills do already have Devin Singletary, but they want to take off some of the running duties from Josh Allen because you get your quarterback hit a lot that way. And even though Devin Singletary's good, I think they want to have another complementary running back to take off less of the pressure on Josh Allen's legs. With the 58th pick of the draft, I have the Atlanta Falcons selecting Troy Anderson, linebacker from Montana State, another team that needs some help, all the help they can get on defense. With the 59th pick of the draft, I have the Packers selecting Trey McBride, tight end from Colorado State. Aaron Rodgers needs some weapons on that offense, and even though they do have Robert Tonyan, I've never been sold on Robert Tonyan as a player. I think he kind of benefited from that system. I think Trey McBride would be a big upgrade, and to add to it, Robert Tonyan's coming off of an ACL injury. He may not be the same now when he comes back. With the 60th pick of the draft, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers selecting Ed Ingram, an offensive guard from the Tigers. When you have a 45-year-old quarterback, you need to do all you can to protect him. The Buccaneers lost some guys on that old line, and Ed Ingram would be the best left offensive guard available. With the 61st pick of the draft, I have the San Francisco 49ers selecting Nick Cross, safety from Maryland. This might be a little bit early for Nick Cross, but the 49ers desperately need some defensive back help, and Nick Cross is the best available safety. And even though he's more like of a third-round kind of projection, maybe even fourth round, I think the Niners may get desperate and pick him. With the 62nd pick of the 2022 NFL Draft, I have the Kansas City Chiefs selecting Skye Moore, the speedy wide receiver out of Western Michigan. Skye Moore would fit well with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's not Tyreek Hill speed by any means, but he could fit in there well and be a great weapon out of the slot for Patrick Mahomes and company. With the 63rd pick of the draft, I had the Cincinnati Bengals selecting Fedarian Mathis, the defensive tackle from the Roll Tide. The Bengals need some D tackles there. I mean, overall, the Bengals' front seven isn't great, and it's not terrible, but it could use some help, and this could be a good pick if he's still available there, which I think he will be. With the 64th pick of the draft, I had the Denver Broncos selecting Bernhard Raymond, an offensive tackle from Central Michigan. This pick makes sense because Russell Wilson, coming from Seattle, left Seattle mainly because of the lack of help he had on his offensive line. The Broncos want to make sure they can do everything to protect him, and the Broncos' offensive tackle play kind of took a decline this past season, so they want to make sure they replenish that for Russell Wilson company. But comment down below what you guys think about my mock draft. Give me a grade, A, B, C, D, or F, in the comments below. Grade not just the second round picks, the first and second round picks as a whole. Give me a grade, and we'll see how accurate I am. But other than that, I will see you guys next time.